Good evening, and welcome to this week's episode of the Hearts of Men podcast, hosted by the Empower Perspective community. We're your hosts for this evening's conversation. I go by the name of Dwayne Dwight, also known as the Mindset Coach. With me are my brothers. Up top with me is Mr. Roland Walker, also known as Poor Man's Dr. Phil, or the Man of Many Hats. Below him is our other brother, Brother Tawami Gaddy, the son of Timothy, also known as, I haven't done it in a while, the Available Man. And beside him is our other brother Christopher McClellan, from across the table from Chris, or otherwise known as the angry guy that is still learning. Gentlemen, how are you on this fine Friday evening?
Reflect.
I'm doing good. Family's healthy. My friends are good. I'm good.
I done had 2 cups of coffee, so I'm ready.
Oh my gosh. Chris, you said reflective. What do you mean, bro?
When I say that, it's more along the lines of I'm actually looking back at a lot of things and reflecting on a lot of things and coming to a lot of uncomfortable understandings. Like, but with each thing I come to terms with and I actually logic my way through it, it's like a weight just falls. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
So when I say that, and when I say that I'm strong, it's not necessarily physically. You understand what I'm saying? I'm starting to, there are other places in my life that the discipline that I use to get stronger physically are playing into that I never knew that they would play into. You understand what I'm saying? So
I do.
So yeah, I'm reflective.
That's a good place to be. That's a good place to be. And I think we all need to be in a reflective state of mind. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, brother. And listen, I would be remiss if I did not speak to everybody who is with us this evening. So listen, we just want to make sure that we appreciate you, because we understand that you could be any other place, but you chose to be here on this Friday evening with us, and we do not take it lightly. So thank you for joining us. So that being said, it's always good to see our chat members, because they're faithful, they're always there, and they're always adding value. So Cassandra McKenzie, my younger brother Christian Barrow, good to see you. Michelle Ray, good to see you. Let me see, Crystal Everett, Bernadette Simmons, Queen V, Miss Verlene McCoy, good to see you. May Bird, good to see you. Lisa Keys, good to see you as well. And listen, if you are with us this evening and you haven't gotten in the chat, get in the chat and acknowledge yourself, because we like to celebrate you on this network, because I don't think we do that enough in our community. So just go ahead and, just get in the chat so we can acknowledge your presence. Also, if you have not yet subscribed to the Empowering Perspective YouTube channel, shame on you. Shame on you. I'm just gonna put it at that. Shame on you. No, I'm joking. Listen, look in the lower right hand corner of your screen. You're going to see the YouTube, and we're going to put your cursor over top of that, and then there'll be a flyer that says subscribe. Click on that, subscribe, and then also click the notification bell. Now I got to say this because I get this a lot. Click the drop down on the notification bell and select all. Don't just click the bell, because the bell is just going to give you access to whenever this video goes live. So you got to click all when it comes down to notifications. All right. I got a treat for you guys this week. And these gentlemen, they're already tracking because we decided we're going to change it up a little bit. So this is going to be kind of like a impromptu, ad hoc in some sort of a way, but it's still going to kind of follow normal trends. So we're just going to see how it goes. So this week, we're talking about something that I think is necessary and needs to be uncovered, right? So we are unraveling key challenges. So we're going to talk about the key challenges that men face in today's society. Now, if you are like me, it is clear to see the problems. Like you go on social media, you go on TV, just look around the community, you can clearly see the problem. And I know all of the, the gurus tend to have their own spin on what the problem is, but I don't believe that anybody can neglect that the problem exists where it looks at where men rightfully sit in society, some of the things that they're doing, the men as it compares to families, as he compares to another person's perception of who he is supposed to be. So when you start looking at all of these different things, you're looking at a problem that just exacerbates over time and it tends to compound. In conjunction with that, you have to consider the adverse effects when it comes down to these key challenges that men face in today's society. So this creates not just a problem for that man, but it becomes systemic from generation to generation to generation. And so overall, what ends up happening, these problems not only affect that man psychologically, it affects that man emotionally, it affects that man financially, it affects that man relationally. Like it literally affects not just that man, but literally generations behind that man and anyone that's within the social circle of that man. So I think it's important that we actually start unpacking this concept, the concept when it comes down to the challenges, when it comes down to men in this day's society, because I think today has a lot to do with it. So that's the main reason why we created the Empowering Perspective membership program, because we are literally defining solutions that can help a person. I'm sorry, hold on a second. I'm getting a lot of feedback. We are defining solutions that can help a person overcome some of the challenges that they're facing in their current point in time. So when it comes down to the Empowering Perspective membership program, I promise you, you'll be blown away if you become a part of it. Look up under your screen if you're on YouTube and just click the join icon and just follow the prompts and make sure that you look at the different levels. If you're on social media, if you're on a mobile device, just look in the show notes. In the show notes, it has the Empowering Perspective membership program. Join here. Again, join us on the Empowering Perspective membership program so we can develop as a culture and add value to each other. So first and foremost, the first problem set that we're going to unpack is the results of experiencing negative relationships. Now, this came from my more older brother on my side here, right? So he wanted to bring this to the table, and I love this topic. So, Roland, if you don't mind, brother, kind of break it down to us and just kind of give us your concept and your idea and why you wanted to bring this to the table.
I think that growing up, we've all experienced relationships that impacted us in a positive, negative, or just in some form of way. And some of those things we brought along with us into adulthood. So when it comes to the experience of coming to manhood, some of us grew up under men who weren't necessarily ready to perform as men, but had the position of being the man, had the position of being heads of household and such, and leaders of our community. But they weren't necessarily, they were thrust in that position because of their uh, being born a male, not because they were prepared to be that, they were ready to be that. And it influenced us. So we were influenced by some negatives, some positives, and I think mostly negative. So when we grew up, we thought that we would think, I'm gonna speak for me. I thought that being a man meant that I could be domineering over something or domineering over people. If I spoke loud or because I beat my chest, then I could get my point across. If I belittled you and just shut you down because I'm more so-called masculine. And I think that's where we get masculine and that whole toxic thing, we get those crossed over and then we become this or something like that, where we think, oh, where everybody has a place, just do your job, when we really don't know our job. But if I can buffalo my way through it I can over talk you and just be more demeaning, then I'm being the man. I put you in your place or whatever. And I think that's where we as a society have ruined a lot of young men, because we had males in the place of men, instead of men there actually knowing what to do and how to do. So we ruined them, and I guess coincide, we ruined our culture.
Now, you know, I already like where you're going with this whole topic because we done talked about this on several occasions. So, gentlemen, do you have any comments, response, or anything you want to add to what poor man's Dr. Phil had to add to the topic here?
This is I see his chops getting ready, so I'm gonna say my small piece and sit there. But I really like where he's going with it, because I I, I said on different occasions. I think on some of our other platforms. I think we're in a generation where we have to realize that we're in the generation of the learning curve to right the ship, and a part of that means we can't jump ship as soon as it gets hard, because both parties are assuming that they got it right and that they're right and the other party's wrong, when here's the reality: if the men didn't know how to be men and weren't present or available or were toxic or whatever the case may be, that means they stifled also the women's ability to learn how to be women to a man. So we are both in this learning process, and we have to remember that we got to push through.
No? You still muted, bro.
I would rather talk about the relationship aspect of this, because my opinion about this differs from everybody's here, and it could be a whole nother show, and it wouldn't be what the show is about. So I would kind of feel like I'm taking away from it. So I would rather just stick to the relationship component of it, because we can get to root causes being because I know them. I know them all the way because I used to work in the system. Like, I've seen it firsthand. So what a lot of people see on the outside might be a good perception, but for what I've seen from the inside and how the inside works, it's a completely different thing. And man, listen, Kevin Samuels used to say this all the time, and I'm a backing. Just Google what days your like family court is open, or your like your child support hearings and things like that. Just pick a random day where you don't have anything to do and just go sit in there, and your entire perception about this whole thing will change. Seriously. Because you'll actually see how the magistrates handle it, how the lawyers handle it, and how the people above them handle it. And then you got the mediators and you got the clerks. It's a whole thing. And I don't want to take away from the show.
No, I greatly appreciate that, man. And you know, I got it. And I'm with you. You know, I mean, you know that. And you know I'm with you on that particular topic. Trust me, I can go down the rabbit hole when it comes down to this. But let's kind of dive into these questions real quick, because I think we're really going to get to that point here pretty soon. So the first question that I want to kind of throw at you guys is, how do negative relationships manifest in various aspects of life, such as friendships, family, or romantic partners, and what unique qualities do they present in each context? And you don't have to go through all of them, just like whichever one you talk about, just go from there.
I do not believe that it is a manifestation. It is not. You don't manifest bad stuff to come to you. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you don't. This is a cycle. This is a cycle of repetitive behaviors. And if you are still in the environment that has those same repetitive behaviors, you're going to think that everything is like that. And anything that looks different is going to terrify you because you've never seen it before. You understand what I'm saying? Whenever I hear the word manifest, I always hear positive things behind it. I don't ever hear anybody say, I want to manifest a bad childhood. I don't hear anybody ever say, I want to manifest a bad job. I want to manifest being broke. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you don't manifest things like that. And in a lot of cultures, manifestation is the same thing as prayer. Like, you don't pray for bad stuff to happen. You see stuff that you think is normal and you repeat the behavior. That's truly what I believe.
See, I think when we're talking manifesting here is pretty much how does it show up in said life and said relationship. And I think I was a prime example of how seeing my father do certain things, seeing people in the community do certain things, how it manifested in my marriage, how it manifested in my life, because now I see Papa was a Rolling Stone. So now, oh, I think that's just what men do. I think I'm supposed to be the player. I think I'm supposed to have women over here, women over there. So it manifested in my relationships. It manifested in because we're talking negativity. Because when you see a behavior and you learn that behavior, now it becomes your truth. Whether right, wrong, or indifferent, it becomes who you are. So it's almost in your DNA. So now you think you're right even when you know you're wrong. So whether it's in being a parent who isn't necessarily there because that's what the mama's supposed to do, or if it's being a husband who says, well, when I get here, you're supposed to have dinner ready and you're supposed to do this, and my fist is down beating against something. So I've manifested those things in my household. And I agree with you. Manifestations are different from manifesting something, whether good, bad, or indifferent, because I manifest things or I see them when I have a behavior that I'm not willing to change.
So you're asking, how do these things come about? Is that the question? Like I say, repetitive behavior. Repetitive behavior seen over time and no removal from said repetitive behavior to have a contrast to it, to actually form an opinion about yourself. That's where they come from. We get one side all the time. All the time. You understand what I'm saying? And we're too scared to go get the other side because the other side might make the side that we've known for so long look kind of like, why did I do that? You understand what I'm saying? Some people don't like the shock to their system like that, so they would rather stay in their comfort zones.
You muted, bro.
I said I would agree with you, Chris. I don't think we only get one side. I think we formulate our opinions on the side that we get the most. It's like when I was young and I had a teacher who showed interest in me, and he was totally different than my father. And I used to think like, man, I wish my mother married somebody like that, because he was a positive influence. And I saw him as a positive influence. But when I got home, I seen my father, I seen my uncles, I seen the people in the street. So they were more prevalent in my life. So that portion became more of a norm to me. So that's what I follow. Even though I seen that as better, I followed this because it was more natural for me.
All right, I was making sure y'all was done because that was a
My
good
mic is
conversation.
muted, sir.
Nah, I had to make sure. You know, because I don't want to disrupt the flow, because it was a good conversation. But I think the way I see it for me, and it still relates to men, right? But I think a lot of women have observed that era of manhood, and it has caused kind of like a push away. It caused them to not want to receive, man, because I see people always talking about, you know, the culture we're in. They don't like masculinity. They don't like men to be men. But a part of it is because some of these young women, especially, were raised by women who saw men, who saw their fathers, who saw their mamas, boyfriends do exactly what Roland is talking about. And so a new generation of men are suffering, you know, and it's not, because I don't think it's not always mimicking, right? Because I saw a lot of men in my community that I knew for sure, in my family and in my community, I did not want to be them, even though I saw it, even though it was present, even though it was a lot of them, but I did not want to be that to my family, to my friends, and to my community. And so I try to emulate something different. I try to pull from a different source, but at the same token, that did not stop me from running into women that had also experienced the same thing. And so whenever I make a decision, or whenever, even if I get mad, because we're used to women getting mad, but when I get mad, it will flash back. Oh, so he is this type of man. He is this and he is that, because she saw something that might have reflect that. And I think it affects. I think Roland brought up kind of destroyed our community. It did, because it made us hate being in relationships with each other, because we expect the worst out of each other. So that's my take.
I am liking every perspective that you guys are sharing, but I'm in this one, this one conversation here, this one particular question, I'm gonna make it simple, simply because I think it is that simple. It is math. Math is everything. I keep saying this, right? I think it's literally that simple. When you take a positive and a negative, put it together, multiply it, what is the end state? A negative. Just like you've heard before, no one is going to change until they are ready to change. If you go into a situation thinking I can change that person, you are going to run yourself ragged or frustrated. You're going to run yourself ragged and get frustrated, or you're just going to get to the point. So, you know what? I quit. So, when you go and put the question back up, please. When you go back to the point where you look at this question, I'm sorry. Yeah, when you look at this question, no, that's not it. When you look at this question, how do negative relationships, simply because we don't take the time to analyze the potential of the situation prior to. There are some people who are caught into a negative cycle, like these brothers just mentioned. You're born into negativity, you've embodied negativity, you've become negativity, you produce negativity. It goes from grandma, it goes from granddaddy, and I'm talking about the men on it right now. It goes from granddaddy to daddy to child to grandchild. It literally goes that way. Why? Because that's your norm. That's what you're accustomed to. That's what you were raised in. You get to the point where you start expecting the worst in every situation because that's what you're taught. You're laced with certain ideologies that create the outcome of your situation. You'll start looking at it that I don't deserve this particular outcome because I was not born with this particular hue, or I don't think that this can happen to me because I got to be twice as good or twice as smart or whatever that looks like. So when you look at the how do, that's where it comes from. It comes from not necessarily looking at the equation, or for the situation to where I'm in it, not necessarily knowing how to pull myself out of it by placing the right things in my equation. So first and foremost, I should not be tying myself to any type of, like, so friendships and family members, I got it, right? Family members I'm going to be tied to. In most cases, people flock to people that think like they do. However, you're going to have to step outside of your comfort zone. You're going to have to flock to the person that speaks that positively, like my brother just got finished talking to. If there's a person in my family that speaks from a positive perspective, I'm leaning in because I want to hear how that person processes information. In most cases, I probably need to get to the point of asking questions. Also, when it comes down to friendships, my friends should not necessarily be continuously the people that I grew up around, because at some point I need to step outside of that scenario. Roland talks about going to different areas and taking his kids to different areas so they can see different things as well. You need to get to the point where you're around different people. Why? Because you need to hear how they do things. You need to see how they do things. You need to hear how they process information and regurgitate thoughts based upon the information. I promise you, you're going to run up to a person. You're going to get up. You're going to meet a person, and that person is going to look at a negative situation and they're going to give you the silver lining instantaneously. And so I may not have been raised with the ability to do that because no one ever did that around me. Therefore, I don't do it. Romantic partnership, I should not have them until I pull the weeds out of my garden. That's just what it looks like. So again, I think it's that simple. I think it's math. Number one, if I know that I exist in a negative mindset, I should not necessarily be looking for a romantic partner. Write it down, take a picture of it. I said it. That's the issue. You got too many people who were raised in negativity. They understand their negative and their thought processes to give it away. When somebody is doing something and you automatically think the worst about them, baby, that's you. That ain't got nothing necessarily to do with that person, even if they are that type of person that kind of gives off these funky little vibes. That's not necessarily them, that's you. So I need to look at myself. My responsibility is to fix this person. So when we start looking at the how do, again, the how do is understanding where my lineage come from, what my thought processes are, start changing the way that I think, then start surrounding myself with people that are actually on a higher positivity plateau that I'm trying to get to. Go ahead, bro.
Everything that came out of your mouth, the only thing that I could think of was fear. Fear is something different. It's really what it is. So, along with everything that you said, there's a component of it that really needs to be discussed, and it has to do with the fear of it. A lot of people don't know how to deal with that fear. No one knows how to deal with the fear of not knowing. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's a lot of people's biggest fear, and that's a component of it that needs to be discussed too, because you don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely.
I think you hit something right there, because maybe that's the reason why we reject seeking mentorship or seeking help or reaching out to people that are doing better than what we're doing in relationships, is because I think as men, sometimes especially when we're young, we look at the idea of asking somebody else how they did it as if we don't know how to be men. So that fear is definitely there. And it's not just not knowing, but it's that fear of my friend or my partner seeing me or thinking I don't know. Because then I feel like she's looking at me as if I'm inadequate now.
So it's an ego thing. Because everything that you said was ego. Like if you base level it.
No, but yeah, it has to be. But anything dealing with fear has to deal with ego, because you're thinking about protecting yourself. Because when anything, it's like when a baby comes, the baby don't want to come outside. They're comfortable inside the womb, inside the belly, inside. But when it's coming out, it's like, hold up, this environment forces me to change. And when anybody's forced to change, they don't like that. And when a man is forced to become a male is forced to becoming a man, it means that you got to put away some childish things. You got to act like an adult. You have to do some things that you don't want to do. You have to feed some people that you don't want to go to work. You don't want to work on that job. You don't want to do all these things, but you have to. And when you're forced to do these things, it says, man, I may not know how to do this on the job, but I know I need a job. I may not know how to be a husband, but I have some examples, and I'm going to piece it together. Instead of asking questions, instead of getting a mentor, I will try to rough it out instead of seeking out, making myself seem, as in my mind, stupid or unlearned. I'd rather go through the bumps and the bruises instead of asking for help. And that's one of the problems that happens in relationships. It happens in friendships, where in friendships, if it's not benefiting me, why am I doing it? Instead of saying, man, I can benefit from learning. That's how it's going to benefit me. Learning. If I'm sitting under Coach, I'm sitting under Chris or Gaddy, I can sit there and learn something that's going to benefit me, to where now I can help be a friend to somebody else. I can help be a better father, a better husband, a better friend. It's all ego.
Man, I think Chris finally found his way to get us to conversate about ego a little more.
No,
but
I mean, if you boil it down to it, if you base level it, all of this sounds like a fear of letting go of your ego.
But has that not been what we as society has equated to manhood or masculinity? Ego. Because when we see a woman operate in that ego aspect, I gotta make money, and I gotta do this, and I gotta have a job, I gotta be respectable, we equate that to her being masculine. So that if you really baseline it all the way down to the lowest level, what we have accepted to be manhood is 100% ego.
Yeah. What I would say is that because you have told me for years my identity looks like a particular thing, and now you're portraying the thing that you said that my identity must be, then I'm looking at what you're showing me and I'm saying, hey, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Therefore, my response is that. I wouldn't necessarily just like just make it all ego, even though it is partially ego. It can be partially ego, I'll say it that way. But I also think that this kind of goes back to the perception of an identity, which again, for me, I didn't want to go there this early, but I will later, because I think that's the root cause of everything. But at the end of the day, when you don't necessarily know who you are, it is not to your advantage to listen to somebody else telling you who you are, especially if that somebody else does not come from your family lineage and is not your father or your mother. Like no one outside of my father and my mother has any right, unless they're pointing me back to the father, to tell me who I am and what I'm supposed to be. Like this is why it gets under my skin when I hear somebody who don't move or act like me tell me what a real man is. Are you serious right now? You have no idea what a real man is because your daddy ain't a real man. He was just your daddy. Just like on the other side, I cannot tell a woman what a real woman is because I don't know. I just know what my mom is. And she was the realest I know. That's it. That's all I got. So when we get to that point of understanding that, then I think I can't just say it's just solely an ego thing. It can be an ego thing if given the right context. But I think a lot of times what has happened, we have said so many times that, oh, well, men just provide and protect. Right. I'm going to put you in a proverbial box of providing and protecting. Now, all of a sudden, you providing and protecting. So now you're wanting me to say, hey, that's not a masculine trait. So then stop telling me that all I do is provide and protect. I'm with you. That's not a masculine trait. But again, stop telling me that's all that I do. Go ahead, brother. Yeah, so I thought you were about to say something.
Okay, yeah. I think we always take a negative slant on ego. I think because when we hear it, it's like, oh, you got a big ego. I think when I deem something that I'm doing important, it's important to me. Yes, my ego is involved because I want it to succeed. So the importance of it matters to me. And we can't just say, well, you got a big ego just because you're being cocky about something, or because sometimes when you are knowledgeable about something, or as we say, cocky about something, it's because you have a grasp on it. So other people may deem it because they don't, as you have a large ego. And it's like you doggone right, I got a large ego about it because I have a grasp on it. So I'm trying to teach you something, not trying to put it in your face that, oh, I got to tell the cat by the tail. Because at the end of the day, we all have egos. We all want whatever we deem important to be important to you also. We want it to succeed. We want it to be as motivational to you as it is to us, but that's not so, because my baby ain't got to be your baby, but I'm gonna let you know it's my baby. I'm gonna be proud about it. And at the end of the day, we can't run away from having a sense of pride about whatever we're doing and accomplishments, because other people may feel lowly about it, or they may feel inadequate.
See, when I say ego, I don't mean it like that. You understand what I'm saying? That everything that you talked about, that all to me spells confidence. I say it all the time. I work really hard on my body. My back is amazing. But I know it's amazing because I put the work in. You understand what I'm saying? I can say that. That to me isn't confidence. When I think ego, I think I know this, or I'm in this position, so I'm better than you. And I'm going to treat you like I'm better than you. That's what I mean by ego. You understand what I'm saying? And for some strange, and the ego of thinking that you're in control of this. You understand what I'm saying? Like you're not. At any given moment, it can be taken away. That's what I mean by ego. You understand what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't want to relinquish that control that they think that they have, when control is just an illusion.
Yeah, I'm with Chris on that one. I'm sorry.
So that's I just wanted to differentiate. So when I say ego, I don't mean ego like confidence. I mean ego like, dude, you're not better than nobody. So you better be glad, you better be happy you have what you have, because it could be taken from you. And it can be taken from you without your knowledge or permission.
Facts.
So chill out. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I mean by ego.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, bro. I think when it comes down to ego, I look at ego and arrogance as kind of like, you can swap them out easily. Confidence, on the other hand, like I don't necessarily feel the need to step on another person or make another person feel smaller than me just because I might be the subject matter expert in this. Or Roland is the subject matter expert, or Gaddy or Chris are the subject matter expert in this. I don't feel like I need to take control because it's mine. No, if they're the subject matter experts, by all means, you lead. I'll follow in this one, and I don't have a problem, relinquishing it. I think that's the thing that we have to get to that point to where we understand and accept as well. So yeah, let's kind of like dive into some of these questions coming from the chat, man, because they're putting them out there. How to help younger men such as myself deal with masculinity in a world that doesn't like you being a man.
You say F the world and continue being a man. Man, listen. The only thing toxic about masculinity is the absence of it. Be a man. We need more of you, especially you young boys.
Man,
Listen, man, do you understand the opportunities that are in front of you right now? I know cats half my age earning $30,000 to $60,000 a day on their cellular devices. You have a wealth of information. You are in such a privileged position right now. You understand what I'm saying? Keep being a man. Keep figuring out what being a man is, and do it according to your teachings and the teachings of the divine creator. And don't let nobody influence that unless you know that they mean you some good. Because a lot of people want to see you do good, just not better than them.
I was making sure. Man, I think I don't disagree with Chris. You just got to do what's right for you as a man, right? I think the moment you focus on what other people want for the sake of gaining what they have to offer, you lose that. To me, that is the absence of being a man or of masculinity, because you are willing to compromise the core of yourself for resources, and versus figuring out how to continue to stay true to the truth and still make a way. And I think we sometimes we blur the line because we say, well, that's your pride. Swallow your pride and do what they ask you to do, so you can get that check, so you can secure that bag. But not all is, and that sounds good sometimes, but like Chris pointed out, don't let no one influence what you what you know to be truth, what you know to be true manhood. And then also understand, at a young age, you might know some of it, but you're gonna keep figuring more out. You're gonna keep learning. You're gonna keep evolving. So just don't get stuck. Don't stop growing.
I mean, you want a clear-cut plan on how to do it? Fine, I'll give you one. Step 1, take some time out, sit at your table or your desk and write out exactly what type of man you want to be. Be very candid. Write that out. Then figure out where those men are and go try to provide some value to them so that way they can teach you something. That's how you do it. How do you think I got here? All of these men and the men on the Uncle Junior Network have something that they can teach me. And Unc saw something in me and brought me in here. And now you have the angry guy. It is that simple. Figure out the kind of man you want to be, go where those men are, and provide some type of value to them, whether it's turning a page every hour for free or interning, whatever. Find out what they need, facilitate it, and maybe they'll provide you some value. That's how you do it.
In the lodge, they had a saying: to pretty much, if you want to be one, you got to know one. Or my grandfather you know, he was a professor at Morehouse, so he would always say, "You're gonna
You
be a
travel?
no."
Oh, okay.
He said you're gonna be a Morehouse man. See, you got to find yourself, as Chris was saying, you got to find yourself some examples of what you want to be. Not to be exactly like them, but when you learn men and see what men do, and not this whole facade of, oh, I'm taking over the world thing, but you find men that actually care, men that actually are striving to be men, striving to take care of their community, striving to be uplifting. You find them and you say, man, I like what they're doing. Let me follow along. Let me just sit and learn. I don't have to talk. See, when I get around men that are older than me, that have something that ain't even got to be older than me, men that got something to teach me, I can sit down, shut my mouth, and listen, because I learn more when I listen. That way I can get a bigger picture of the thing. And then I can take pieces from each and say, okay, I'm going to move this. I'm going to add this to my life. So now it's the building blocks of rolling. Christian has to build some blocks up, say, man, I want to be an upstanding young man. And this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take something from him. I'm going to take something from him. And I'm going to piece this thing together. It's like sometimes I hear my father. Sometimes I may hear my grandfather. It's whatever whoever you're learning from these people to build yourself up. So at the end of the day, you say, what does a man do? A man takes care of his family. A man stands by. A man keeps his word. That's why it's like when people say, well, it's just a bill. It ain't just a bill to me because my name is on the bill. So I don't want the bill late. So when I'm paying my bills, it's because my name has to mean something to. If it don't mean nothing to them, it means something to me. Because when they got to call me on the phone and say, we looking for our money, that means my name is bad. That means I'm not doing my part as a man for me.
But nobody dives deeper than that. It's deeper than that. When I say write down what kind of man you want, I mean write down exactly what it looks like in your head. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I mean. I don't mean just off of what people tell you on social media or anything like that. Sit down and actually ask yourself, what does it take to be the type of man that I want to be?
I am loving everybody's perspective on this, and I am probably going to say probably the most unpopular statement today. First and foremost, I look at this question: how to help younger men such as myself deal with masculinity. First and foremost, stop trying to deal with it. Right? Masculinity is not something to deal with; it is something to embrace. It is a part of who you are. It's twofold. We got to make sure that we understand. Just because you are a male does not mean that women don't have masculinity. There are masculinity and femininity exist in both beings, male and female. That's what I want to start at. Right now, you have more masculinity as a male, ideally. Therefore, understand what it means to be masculine, but also understand what it means to exhibit some femininity in the right moments when it's necessary. Case in point, I don't show up masculine for my daughter unless I need to. You see what I'm saying? There's a nurturing side of me that my daughter endures. She greatly appreciates because I am extremely compassionate, caring, and loving towards her. But that does not mean that that's not a masculine trait. We do that also many times. We'll say, well, oh, this is masculine and this is feminine. No, it's all combined. It's all the same. So what you have to understand is that you don't deal with masculinity. You embrace it incrementally throughout the course of time. So you progressively become aware of who you are as a man. That's what I start off with. Secondly, in a world that doesn't like you being a man, stop dealing with those people that don't like you being a man. It's that simple. Remove those people or yourself out of your presence, because for those people who don't like you being a man, then ideally those people aren't for you. What you need to do is surround yourself with people who's going to do like these brothers speak. These brothers were speaking about. They're going to pour into you. They're going to nurture you. They're going to care about your upbringing, your development, your growth, so forth and so on. That does not mean we exclude women from this thing. I'm going to tell you, I got some of the best advice I ever got in my life from my mother, just being transparent. I don't think any brothers I don't think most brothers that you encounter can say anything different. It's not that they gave us the most profound, but they gave us some of the best advice you've ever heard. moving forward, you take all of that. And I think it was Roland who mentioned this. You take all of that and you take certain bits and pieces from everybody that you encounter, right? Male, female, alike, doesn't matter. And then you take that, you process it, you conceptualize it, and then you do like Chris said, you find out how can I present that in my life to be the best version of myself. You got 4 different men on this panel that move and behave differently. I'm not trying to be like Roland. Roland's not trying to be like me. I'm not trying to be like Chris. Chris not trying to be like me. I'm not trying to be like Gaddy. Gaddy's not trying to be like me. But we appreciate the differences of each of us. That's the thing. And so once we get to that point, then we realize that we're not in competition with anyone, right? The only person that I'm in competition with is myself. So for the world that doesn't like me being a man, forget them. That's not my concern. That's not even my thoughts. That's not even something I'm going to consider and think about long. I put myself around men who empower men and grow from that point on.
And I'm going to add something. Either get off of social media for a while or change your algorithm. Because if he's asking that question based off of the way that masculinity is viewed in mainstream media and social media and it being such a negative thing, but the women exhibiting the most toxic traits of masculinity is considered freedom, I think that's where he's coming from. Get off of social media, bro. Just take a break, take a hiatus. Or either find some people that you can follow on Facebook that's doing what you want to do as a man, or have the qualities that you would want in a man. Don't follow this mainstream nonsense, man. Don't get caught up in that rabbit hole.
What you got, Gaddy?
I think also sometimes we mix up the idea of masculinity, testosterone, and just manhood, right? Because masculinity is exhibited traits, right? You know, the concept of masculinity is doing a thing, right? Testosterone is a hormone buildup that causes you to, like, and I'm gonna use Chris' word, to do a thing strong. And I know what he mean by strong, but you know, it allows you to be able to do it at a different level, the physical thing at a different level, right? And then manhood is the responsibilities that we all carry as men in this walk through life. And I think sometimes what we look at is we look at someone who does a thing a certain way, or a man who says, no, I'm gonna pay the bills. Like I think it was Coach a while back, not Coach, I think it was Uncle a while back that made the statement, I enjoy paying the bills and knowing that the lights are on because I took that responsibility. And then somebody else may come on, so like Chris brought social media, may come on social media and say, see, but that's toxic masculinity. Why she can't pay the bills? Why she can't have? That's not.
Because
no,
I'm not doing it.
I don't please. I didn't mean to trigger you, bro. But that's not masculinity, and that's not testosterone. That's just the responsibility that he enjoys as a man. He said he was gonna do it. I ain't believe you when you said you was gonna do a cue card of it. But I think sometimes because we like to use words so that we can trigger a response or reaction. We got Coach says all the time, words mean things. So
hey, I appreciate you guys. And Chris, I hope I'm sorry, you're Christian. I hope that we answered your question, brother. Moving on, we got probably about time for one more question over here. At Poor Man's Dr. Phil, in this scenario, when a man is being domineering or yelling at the woman, do you think it causes the woman to respond in a defensive posture?
It depends on how the woman was raised, because she may have been raised by a domineering husband or a mother that accepted that type of behavior. So she may accept it. But a woman that's sure of herself, that has, like, I think that we're pitted against each other too much. And I wrote something about it today, because we take side. I don't need her. She don't need me. No, we need one another. So sometimes I may have to say something stern to get my point across, but it's never in a domineering place. I used to tell my soldiers, if I tell you to get down, I can't sit up there and passively tell you get down when we at war. I got to tell you get down, and it may come with some choice words. You just need to get down, duck, or get shot in the doggone head. So at the end of the day, we have to learn one another to know what domineering is, because sometimes we can choose those words and make them crutches to say you just trying to be this and you just trying to be that. I think when we look at domineering or yelling behavior, we have to look at the scenario that we're in, because if you about to get hit by a car, I'm not going to whisper it to you. If something dangerous is coming and I'm trying to help protect you, then it's not going to come where if I'm just trying to tell you, hey, something burning, something boiling over on the stove or something like that. I think that men not trying to be controlling, but trying to be protective at times may say it a certain way, but women have to learn their mate so that we can look at it and say, man, is it a domineering thing? Is it a controlling thing? Or is it he's looking out for me? Because sometimes you may have to tell me, and I can't say, oh, well, you can't be yelling at me. I'm yelling, telling you to duck, ignorant. And I got to accept it. I can't take it personal simply because the octave of your voice has raised. I got to say, okay, is the information proper that come from you? And can I take that and is it helping me?
All right, very good. I like it. Lisa, I hope that my brother answered your question. So we're going to keep pressing on and move on to the next question. Can you bring up the next question, please? Okay. What underlying psychological or emotional factors contribute to the formation and continuation of negative relationships, and how can recognizing these factors lead to healing? Psychological and emotional factors.
Okay, they didn't go. They thinking still. I think when we look at emotional and psychological factors, not knowing who you are first and foremost. You have to know who you are emotionally, psychologically, because I think we fall into these emotional triggers and psychological triggers because we don't necessarily know who we are. So when someone says something, it triggers a thought, it triggers a feeling, and oh, I'm pouting or I'm emotional about this thing because I don't know how to act. I don't know how to respond because I've never been in this position before. And sometimes mothers and fathers can hinder the growth of a child by not allowing them to fall and get up. Sometimes you have to allow someone to fall, allow them to get up on their own so that they can see what it's like that, hey, this is not unto death. This just is something that's trying you, because when you don't know how to do, like I've seen people just fall apart emotionally because they don't know how to deal with stress. They don't know how to deal with recovery. They don't know how to deal because they never had to, or they either had to deal with so much that now anytime something comes, they put up a roadblock, they put up a barrier, and it develops into their relationship. So when they see something that looks like that coming forward, may not be that, but they see it. And it's a trigger. And it's almost like when you slapping the dog all the time, and then you pick up the newspaper just to read it, and the dog is doing that. It's a response. It's a psychological response, and people have these psychological responses also. So we need to recognize who we are and develop ourselves. We need to do a lot of self-reflection before we try to get in relationships, because what we do is we take our damaged little selves and we get with another damaged person and say we're going to tough it out together, instead of saying, let me work on me, let me build me. And then if I see she's damaged, I'm not going to mend that to myself. What I'm going to do is I'll help you grow. And if you get to a point to where I can see we can grow, then we can move forward. But until then, I don't want to get with you and you're bleeding and I'm sitting up there telling me, where all this blood coming from? It's coming because you mended yourself with somebody who was already broken and who didn't mend themselves together.
But see, how do you know you're broken? Until somebody shows it to you.
I think naturally we know we're broken. Naturally, we don't want to accept it because we can
Roland,
say,
I need you
we
to
can say,
understand the
I
question.
was raised like this, and this is how my mama brought me up, and my daddy did this. So those are things that let you know you got some work to do because you're already making excuses for why you're the way you are.
Roland, I need you to hear the whole question. The reason why I asked that is because of the same things that you just said. This is stuff that we see all the time, and we think it's normal. We don't know it's normal until we step outside of our normal. You understand what I'm saying? What underlying psychological or emotional factors contribute to the formation and continuation of negative relationships? The fact that we think this nonsense is normal because this is all we see. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm coming from this. How does recognizing it help to lead to healing? You go through the 5 stages of grief. You sincerely do, because you looking at where you came from and you understanding that that's not it, because you seeing something different, and that something different make you feel like that thing that you're normally into makes you feel the same way. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not a, and right now I'm at the acceptance stage. But here's the acceptance of it. You accept the fact that 80 to 90% of the nonsense you was taught growing up was BS. That's the grief part of it. You have to come to grips. You remember earlier when I said I was coming to grips with some really uncomfortable truths. This is one of them. You understand what I'm saying? So yes, it leads to healing in that aspect, but I can never go back to the way that I was, because I know the way that I was trash. But again, to go back to the beginning, I didn't know that until somebody showed it to me. You understand what I'm saying? So on a wider scale, how do we know that there's something different out there than when this is all we see?
See, I'm with you, Chris, and I understand, and just like I'm at a different area than you in life, and because I thought it was normal for you to see your father nodding off because he just finished shooting up. I thought it was normal to have family members who they just going in the bathroom, they smoking rocks. I thought it was normal behavior for everybody family to act like this, and until you get away from it, you're like, hold up, this ain't normal. Everybody parents ain't dope fiends, ain't crackheads, ain't all this other stuff. It's not normal behavior. So as you grow and that's why I say always allow your children to have vast experiences, because you broaden their minds, and when they broaden their minds, their horizons, and that little box that they may have had themselves in, or you had them in, or whatever had them in, it starts to expand. Like, hold up, I can do more and be more than what I see in my day-to-day living. So yeah, we can't just, it's not just flip the switch. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of development. And when something ain't right, even when you're doing it, if it's not right.
I'm glad you said that. Now, how do we deal with that part of it and being able to say it and being able to understand it? That's what's missing.
Well, let the conversation develop, and I think you'll get to that answer. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, and I like what you're doing.
But I wanted to do that because
I got you.
Don't know.
I got you. You're standing on that question, and I like the fact that you're doing that. But let the conversation evolve, and I think you'll get to the answer. Go ahead, Gary.
Man, I really had to sit back. I wasn't gonna really respond too much to this question. I was gonna let y'all run, because here's some underlying triggers for me growing up, right? Roland thought it was normal seeing his father nod off because he just did. And then marrying that to hearing Coach talk about, our mothers gave us some of our best advices in life. But for me, it was my mom I watched snort, shoot up. It was my mother that died from AIDS, from needles. It and it's a public forum, but you can't hurt the feelings. She's already, she gone. But here's the healing process. I had to be tired of being trash. I had to be tired of being emotional. At 12 years old, I no longer lived with my mother. I didn't see my mother again until I was in my 20s, you know, and it's because of what she had to go through and her process. She had to walk her process, and in doing that, I had to lose being able to live with either of my parents. And so when we talk about these traumas and we talk about these emotional and psychological factors, they're real. And I think the first thing I had to do was realize that when people are talking to me, they're dealing with the same, or they've dealt with some of the same issues. Maybe not the way I dealt with it. They may not have gone through exactly what I've gone through, but especially in our community, it's too many of us that have this experience of this trauma that stems from daddy and mommy issues that we all have. But I was tired of getting in trouble because I couldn't hold my emotions. I was tired of having to always pay my renters back because I couldn't help but put a hole through the wall when someone said something that made me mad, because my emotions was out of whack because I did not deal with the thing. Everything that I experienced, and here's the problem. It took me so long because I was married to my trauma. I didn't know how to live healed. I didn't know normalcy bothered me. And not having to hold on to it, because my identity was tied to being hurt. And at some point, you got to be sick of it, because what I want in life is not mirroring up to my behavior, because I could not let it go. At some point, you just got to say, I'm tired. I can't be stuck in this pain no more. Where do I move? And then at that moment, I was able to finally hear the help. I was able to finally see the help. And this is me answering the question. And that's only when you're sick and tired of living there in that space. This is the only time help can actually step in. Because I've recognized it a long time ago. I just didn't know what me looked like without that. I was always ready to fight. I was always angry. Who am I outside of that? I didn't know, but I had to find out.
You know what I had to do? I had to actually face the emotion, face the fear. Because what I tried to do, I tried to tough it out. I tried to not cry. I tried to not deal with it, but just okay. I ain't dealing with that. But then I actually had to come to a point to where, man, I had to accept it was what it was. I had to cry. I had to reach out to people that hurt me. I had to reach out to people that hurt me, made me feel a certain way, made me resentful and all this other stuff. And I had to forgive them for me, not for them. I had to forgive them for me so that I could move forward, because there was like a backpack on my back. And I'm sitting up there, and it was like a badge of negative Negro honor or something. Like, yeah, I grew up like this and I grew up like that. And it was why I was tough. It was why I did things. It was why I was ignorant in certain areas and didn't want to grow, because I wanted to hold on to that. But when I dealt with it, admitted it, and was able to cry about it, say, man, I gotta let this thing go, because I'm holding on to these emotions instead of letting these emotions flow, and it's killing me here. It's killing my relationship with my kids. It's killing my relationships with my family, because I'm holding on to it. And then and only then could I move forward, because until then, I'm just holding on to it like we playing tug of war.
I think there is a very unique interplay that happens between the psychological and the emotional. And when you have not identified what is going on with you psychologically, it manifests itself emotionally. The emotions manifest itself so that you can understand that there's something happening with you psychologically. The issue is we normalize bad emotions and think it's cool. And so we never go back and break down the psychological aspect of what we're going through. Because Gaddy said it just now. Like, I'm tired of living, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but my behavior is not reflecting the life that I want to live. That is your indicator. That's the thing that you must look at. But here's the deal. For a person who has not yet harmonized with the emotions, with the person who have not yet harmonized with what's going on with them psychologically, they think they're right. Everybody else is wrong. And it shows. They may have been through like 4, 5, 6, 7 relationships. And every last one of those people they've been in relationships, they're wrong. It's all their fault. But they're the common denominator. You're the only person that is consistent in every conversation you've ever been in. And I'm sorry, in every relationship you've ever been in. But yet, everybody you've ever tied yourself to was wrong. Why does that make sense? It only makes sense here in the people that you selectively surround yourself with, because those people aren't friend enough to be completely honest and transparent with you. That's the thing. So you have to look at what you say you want and what your behavior is currently displaying. Then at some point, like you said today, right, I'm self-reflecting, right? You have to do a lot of self-reflecting, and then you're going to have to come to the realization, say, you know what? I am not behaving, right? I am not putting out the vibes that are attracting the things that I want in life. I am literally damaging everything and everyone I put my hands on. But yet I'm living in the clouds because I say, this is what I want out of life. And oh yeah, by the way, when we go back and look at some underlying psychological problems, you had somebody in the past that told you a lie, and you held on to that lie, and you carried that all the way into your present, and you hold everybody else responsible to the lie that somebody told you back in when you was growing up. You ain't that. You ain't no special than anybody else. That's the thing we got to realize. You're not the most important person in the room. Nobody has to stand up when you walk in. Nobody have to do any of those things. So whoever that was that painted that picture back here, it was in error. Now that picture can look different as well, because you could have been the recipient of all the negative information. You could have been told that you're not going to amount to anything. You could have been told that you would never achieve anything in life. And then what happens is you bring that lie forward into your present self, and then you talk yourself out of every potential blessing that exists. This is the interplay between the psychology of a thing and the emotions behind a thing. Let's be completely transparent. Emotions are not feelings. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Emotions, in essence, energy in motion. This is the thing that exists within this ecosystem that pushes and pulls. It pushes and pulls on the level that you're existing, not the level that you're talking. And so a lot of times we talk up here at 9,000 gigahertz, but we're really down here at 200. That's where we're existing. And so when you brought that conversation earlier, somebody mentioned fear, that's low frequency. Fear is always low frequency, because fear will make you repel everything you say you want. And a lot of people exist in a relationship through the lens of fear because they're fearful of a negative outcome. You shouldn't be in a relationship then. Any relationship. You need superficial friendships until you fix yourself. And that's just what it is. And it's not a bad thing to understand. It is actually good to be aware of that, because everything from that point on is up. So I think when you look at this question, we have to recognize the interplay between the psychological aspect of living and the emotional aspect of living. And the emotions will always tell the truth, and the outcome of your life will always be reflective of your reality.
That was a lot to process.
Take your time.
But you kept saying the word fear. So it leads me back to my original point. Like, people are afraid of something different.
And you're right. Not only are they afraid, but they will literally act like a child when something different is staring them in the face. They will lash out at you. They will start yelling at the top of their voice. They literally still start looking like a 3-year-old.
How do you rewire that?
That's a different conversation for a different day. And trust me, I got you. I understand. I'm with you.
That's where we are right now.
That's where
Like,
we are.
We
You're right.
get it, but
I think the easy.
We know it's wrong, but why do we keep doing this? You understand what I'm saying? And that's an aspect of it that people just don't dive into enough.
Yeah.
I think that, and like Coach said, that's a different conversation. But I think the easy answer, right? For me, at least speaking from my experience, the easy answer was go through the process and allow time to rebuild you. Because when that breakdown happens, right? When that breakdown happens, is a depression that took place for me, because I no longer knew who I was. I was sure who I was. I was the dude from the Bronx who didn't take no stuff, who was ready to fight, all this angry, aggressive stuff. That was who I thought I was supposed to identify myself with. But what happens is that time of depression, what it was is because I didn't know who I was no more. And now I was just clay. And that's when that process of leaning to the help that I had, reaching out for help, gaining mentors, identifying, like you said earlier, identifying those markers that I wanted to look like, that I wanted to exhibit in my life, and understand how the behaviors they exhibit, and begin to, because on as much as people hate to say, "Oh, I ain't trying to be like nobody," there's an image of somebody in your head when you think of a thing, whether it's your money, whether it's your marriage, it might be a different person for each one. But that molding process just took its time through the process of healing completely. As you heal and as you grow, you begin to rebuild that man that you just had to tear down. You had to tear him down in order to get to that place where it's like, all right, enough.
Mine would be immersed, not immersed. That's dealing with the plant, but with an I. Immerse means you come when you get around somebody like PTSD issues, and I will always go back to that because it helped me. If you have a problem with something, a bunch of triggers, and you try to stay away from them, you try to not deal with them, you're not dealing with them. But when you immerse yourself in that environment or around those people, now it's easier for you to be around it. Now you can talk about it. Now you can deal with it. Because if you can't even be around it, you can't even deal with it. It's always going to be a trigger. It's like, "Ooh, I can't stand them. Ooh, I want to do this to them." But when you get around it, it's like, okay, it ain't that bad. It's not going to kill me to be around them. And I can deal with it. I can talk confidently about it, because now you see the growth in self and say, man, I'm not that little boy. Because I had to have these conversations about when I went in the kitchen and I'm thinking I'm getting the straw, and it's like, this is a doggone cocaine straw and I'm 7 years old, and things like that. And you see it when you grow up and you talk to your siblings about things that happen. It's like, man, but when you immerse yourself, now you can talk to the people that did damage to you and not talk from a place of, I want to do damage back to you. I want to hurt you like you hurt me, or talk at them because you're still in that hurt place. You can get to that place to where it's like, okay, I can talk to you and mean you well because I've grown, I've done the work. And it's like, okay, I'm past that. Now, how can I help you be better?
What's up, Unc?
Yeah, I was just about to say, why you still processing, bro? Let's welcome my brother Uncle Junior from the Uncle Junior Network, brother Garfield Martin. Brother, welcome to the show. I hope you had fun on the football field tonight.
Oh, I did, man. But it's that bittersweet stuff about football, man. First play of the day. First play of the game. Somebody went out on a stretcher, man. So,
oh man,
the bitter part, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so we're finished and unpacking this, and you can. I know you've been backstage listening, bro, and you can jump in any point in time. But this is a good topic here because again, and I want to kind of go back to what Gaddis said. Gaddis said he said the easy, and I want to make sure I got what you said right. You said the easiest way to say it. Did you say it that way? What was that? Is that how you started? Okay. He said the easiest way to say it. even in saying it, like the process, like going through the process, understand that there's a process to go through. Understanding the process, number one, is a thing, but the process is not easy. I'm just going to be completely transparent. It is not easy. I would be lying to you if I told you anything different. I take people through the process all the time. And trust me, there are times where I need to call somebody and vent. Just being honest. It is what it is, right? It's like sometimes you can see, like, we're talking, and Uncle, this will look familiar to you, right? You're talking to somebody and you can see that they're mentally stuck and there's nothing preventing them or keeping them there. They're choosing to stay there. So you use a thing to trigger them, and that thing becomes now that it's kind of like a marker. So you use a thing as a marker, and every time they start acting that particular way, you show them the marker. When you show them the marker, it's almost like it click. I do it, and Chris, you see me do it, right? I do it periodically with another friend of ours, right? And when I do it, he automatically starts smiling because he knows what I'm doing. It literally works that way. It is probably one of the most amazing things that you will ever witness on the outside of somebody else's thought cycle. And unfortunately, some people, they will choose to continue to recycle negative thoughts. No?
I also think that sometimes the longer you've been in that cycle, the harder it is to come out. I know people who have been in a cycle they're in their 40s right now. And I'm sitting here and I'm just like, it is so simple. But like Coach said, they're stuck. And a lot of times they're stuck in their own mindset. Because you think about it, somebody who's 40, they've been having a lot of them thoughts since they've been an adult. So they haven't explored life or seen things outside of their zip code or area code and different things like that. So it's going to be harder. I think, like I mentioned before, us being the guys that's in the military, I think we have a great advantage just over normal people when it comes to being able to interact with different people, because we get deployed, we go overseas. I mean, we got soldiers that's in Japan and Korea and Germany and all these different countries and stuff. And then you look at what's on a military poster in a unit, you'll have 150 dudes from 30 different states, all from different cities and stuff like this. So everybody drives different, everybody has a different slang, a different dialect. You know what I mean? So I just think we were fortunate to be around a lot of these people. But for a lot of normal people, because we've been around so many different people, we see how these people act over here and this person act and these types of people. We see so many different types of things. So we're not stuck in a mindset that's limited to our demographics or our region. You know what I mean? We've explored outside. And like I said, I think that's just an advantage. But, it is hard, when you've been having a mindset for so long to change. You think about religion. How you think any Christian or Muslim, how you think somebody gonna come in their life and be like, hey, look, you need to change and do something like this? If they're not open-minded about religion, they're not even going to hear the conversation. So open-mindedness is a good way to create even the plan. Look, stop whining.
But see, I'm glad you said it, and I'm glad you said it, Coach. It is simple, but it is not easy. The steps are so bare bones. If you do this handful of things, your life will change. But you have to unlearn this gigantic pile of nonsense that you've accumulated all your life. That's the part we need to deal with. Because what a lot of people think, they think is easy. But I said it previously. This process is like tearing off a limb that you need. It hurts. It is painful. It is uncomfortable. You're going to be anxious. You're probably going to have a couple panic attacks because your body's not going to know what it's doing. How do you tell people that you have to go through all of this to get to this and then just expect them to do it? That's the part that we need to deal with. And
DP.
But see, here's and another thing. The men have to understand that it is okay for them to do it. It is okay for you to unlearn the nonsense that you have been taught, if it was indeed nonsense and it is not moving you to where you need to be. It is okay. You're going to piss some people off. Your family probably ain't going to talk to you. If you have parental issues, they probably not going to talk to you because you're going to be looking at things from something different than what they told you. There's going to be things that you are going to go through, and you have to be okay with that. At least for the time being. They'll love you. They'll come back, but you're dealing with something right now. You have to be okay with that.
But to Unc's point, I want to kind of bring this, and then I give it back to you, Unc. Like, he mentioned military folk, and I'm glad you call everybody else, like you called it. What do you call them? You call them regular people. Yeah,
Regular.
I'm glad you called them regular, because we're definitely not regular. Like, trust me, I'm just being honest. Like, we've done some crazy stuff, just being honest. But in the beginning, we were broken. So we went through the process in the beginning. We went through basic training. We went through somebody breaking down all of your norms that you were given growing up. Somebody looking you in your face and like, I know you want to hit me, don't you? I dare you to hit me. I bet you won't. You see what I'm saying? Like, we went through that stuff, and we had to, and that is, and I hate to say it, that is actually a technique, right? That is actually a technique. Even when, like, for PTSD, like, they tell you to go do what is called total immersion. Like, whatever the thing that you're fearful of, they tell you to go submerge yourself in that thing and stay there for an extended period of time. You're going to start feeling anxiety and all that. Stay there, fight through it, stay there. Like, these are different techniques, but they work. I hate to say it that way, and it don't feel good, but it's everything that feels good isn't good for you. That's the first thing you need to accept. So stop chasing everything that feels good and pursue the thing that is good. And understand that the thing that is good in most cases won't feel good. It's okay. Stop being led by your feelings anyway. I keep trying to tell folks, like, those feelings will get you in trouble every time. Move the feelings out the way and move in the direction of what you know is good. When you do that, then you will elevate your vibrational frequency and you'll start attracting the things in life that you want. Like, case in point, we like in these guys can tell you, like, we started the membership program, and I stopped. I said, hey, we got to back up. We need to start with this first, because we got to give them something to build on. And that's when we started with positivity. And there's like 7 straight videos on positivity. Why? Because everything in your life has to be rooted in positivity. If it is not, it will fail. You can't do a thing that turns out good from a root that is negative. I don't care what type of plant you got. If the root is rotten, it will die. So we go back and we pull out all of the negative weeds and we just start injecting positivity. Then we're moving on to other stuff. So moving on to goal setting, moving on to relationships. In the Diamond program, we're going to start talking money and entrepreneurship. Why? Because now that we have the positivity foundation, whatever they want to do, they can actually do it. And they won't talk themselves out of it. They won't be fearful. They won't be afraid. They won't listen to Uncle Joe or Uncle Tommy or, Sally Sue or all these people who got negative mindsets, because they know how to shut them out now. That's the thing. And I keep stressing, I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about it, because I believe in people. And because I believe in people, I tell everybody that I encounter, like, you're only scratching the surface of who you were intended to be. Get out of your own way and stop blaming people for where you are. It is no one else's fault. It is us. Listen, I'm not gonna. I'm mid-age. I'm just put it like that with that. I'm just leave it right there. I'm a certain age. I'm this gray hair is for a reason. I say it that way. It came a point in my life where I had to stop looking back and say, my daddy left my mom when I was 3 years old. I can't blame him for that. That was his choice. Their relationship is their relationship. Now, as a grown man, I reached out to him and said, hey, you know what? I want us to have a stronger relationship. I need us to talk more often. And his response was, son, I thought we had a great relationship. I was like, why'd you think that? In his mind, I'm only assuming, he didn't say, I'm assuming that he thought it was a great relationship because we weren't arguing. No, I'm talking about this thing they call intimacy, where I call you and talk to you about the thoughts that I'm actually having, the dreams that I'm actually having, things of that nature, and we bounce ideas off of one another. But that didn't work out. I'm okay with that, though. So I had to get to the place where another person's behavior even if it is somebody who birthed me, does not change my destination.
You know, if because I'm still thinking about something Chris said that is so true. How do we tell a person to take this thing and go through it, and also tell them that it's hard and you got to go through this? And being the soldier, right? The first thing that I think about when you start talking about the basic training, one thing that they did to us in basic training that I wasn't used to, they forced you to keep a battle buddy with you. You're about to go through this process, and for the rest of this process, you make sure your battle buddy is with you at all times. And yeah, part of it is to protect the drill sergeant, right, from scandals and trouble. But what you learn through that process is that battle buddy being with you made the process easier. It was moments I could sit back and we could laugh about what drill sergeant says and how he taught. You know, to the point we start mimicking drill sergeant so much that we do it at the end right before you graduate. Like there was things that became through a terrifying experience. It became exciting almost because I had someone to talk to at the end of the day. When I had to do a detail, when we had to clean and scrub, when we had to wax the floor, we had someone to do it with. We were talking, we had conversations, we was able to share. Man, I'm struggling with these push-ups. Man, you know what? I just do this, and this. And man, I'm struggling with these sit-ups. This is what I do. I got so many sit-ups. Like, and that thing is real, even in this process. That sometimes as men, we gotta realize ain't nothing wrong with having somebody that I can call and say, "Hey, man, this is hard. I'm struggling," and he has to be willing to say, "Man, I struggled there too. Let me tell you how I got better." I think sometimes as men, we think we have to march alone in order to be a real man and get through this. Ain't none of us did it alone.
I think there's another component of it, and I'm gonna shut up. We have to be okay and learn how to deal with the fact that the people that we thought loved us with all of their hearts taught you some nonsense that you got to unlearn. You have to get over the anger of that. That is where I am. I am so pissed off about everything that I had to unlearn when you could have just told me the truth from the beginning. That's another uncomfortable truth that I had to deal with. And it's something that you have to deal with because you have to understand that they taught you what they taught you because that is all they knew. So you can't really, really be mad at them, but you can be mad at them because why didn't you unlearn this so I didn't have to do this? You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, and you also have to get over the arrogance of thinking that you're smarter than your elders because you figured it out and not downplay them too. You understand what I'm saying? There's a level of grace that you have to give. Because like I said, they taught you what they taught you because that is all they knew, no matter how dumb it was. And it was.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you're really angry at the fact that you can't be angry.
That might be it.
Mm-hmm.
Coach for the win at the buzzer. That might be it.
And here's another part here's another thing that you're gonna that people kind of go through when they're going through this process of learning and stuff like this is when you start realizing that some of the stuff that you were taught were actually beneficial to you. You know what I mean? Like I had to go back and was like, because I spent my whole life trying not to be like my father, right? Because of his habits and the way he lived his life and all of those different things. But then as I got older and I started looking back and seeing who he was to the core, this Joker just had a problem that he couldn't shake at the end of the day. It wasn't who he was. That was something that was part of his life, but that wasn't who he was. I knew him for Dad. I knew what he instilled in me from a young guy. You know what I mean? So I do want to say that I think that when you're going through all of this stuff, you go back and realize, you know what, I did get some good stuff. There's a lot of good things. Might have been a lot of bad things that we have to unlearn, but there are some good things that we can take away from that too. You know, and those sometimes, like Coach said, that you said that winning free throw, those are the same thing. You like, dang, can't even be mad at mom for that no more. Like, she was actually right. She taught me this. So as you're going through it, you're going to learn a whole lot more. Fun, hard. Trust the process.
I am. Believe me, I am.
That's how you get through it. That's why I wrote TTP in the chat. Trust the process, because it get hard. And sometimes you be like, no, I don't want to do it. Just keep going through it. Just keep going through it. And eventually you be like, you come out on the other side, and you look back and you be like, man, I'm glad I went through it. Promise you. Just like back day.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Very good. I like the fact you injected trust the process.
Damn right.
I see what you did there, sir. I like that. I like that. Let's grab these 3 comments real quick, and then we can get out of here because we're at our time. So real quick, it appears that let me see where we at. All right, there it is. You have to process the thoughts and calm these emotions and feelings. Absolutely. You got to process those thoughts. You have to understand why those thoughts exist and what starts those thoughts and what triggers them and some of the psychological and physical responses that happen to you, the increased heart rate, the sweating, and all that other good stuff. Those are indicators that you cannot ignore. So great comment. Thank you, Miss Queen V, Miss Verlene Bacour. I appreciate that. Look like our brother John from Facebook is dropping some science as well. You have to know yourself enough to want someone else in your life to share what you know. You can't share what you don't know with someone you have to get to know. I got what you're saying. I'm of the mindset, though, I don't want to bring anyone in my life until I'm to the point to where, and maybe I'm kind of confusing what you're saying. And if I am, I apologize. But I don't want to bring anybody into my life until I'm to the point where I'm healthy enough to where I can nurture a relationship to where it's not 2 different psychological imbalances fighting one another.
I get what he's saying. He's saying, know yourself enough to know that you got something that you can pass on. You understand what I'm saying? Like when he says you want somebody in your life that you think enough of to share what you know, it might be understand that you got something you can give and figure out what that is. It could be that, maybe. I don't know.
No,
I just looked at it from a different angle.
Yeah, still yet with that one. This is the only time I say you have to be selfish, right? I never talk about being selfish outside of this, but it's not really being selfish because it's being better so that you can, right? So focus on self, get better, so forth and so on, so that you can. So if John, if that's what you were saying, brother, you're spot on. I apologize if I misunderstood your comment there. But again, we have to focus inwardly first before we have anything to share, because we can have it in us. We just don't know how to bring it out because of all of the layers and layers and layers of, as Chris was talking about earlier, bad teaching, unharmonized emotion, all those other great things. So great point. Thank you. Michelle Ray says the mindset is always the starting point. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Spot on. I can't say that any other way or better. That said, moving on, which takes us to our final segment, which is always our bittersweet moment, and it is the final thoughts. And that being said, we're going to start off with Brother Gaddy, and then we're just going to keep it moving. So with that being said, we're bringing up Mr. Young Timothy himself, the available man.
Oh man, this was a conversation for the ages, man. I just want to leave right here because we dealt a lot with the healing process. And from my perspective, the hardest part was realizing I didn't know who I was. And I tried to hold on to some things that I identified myself with. But here's the thing I had to learn and I had to teach myself. It was, I am not the thing that has a hold of me. And so we have to remember we are not that thing that has a hold of us. We can let it go. Who you truly are is who you are becoming after you release yourself from all the baggage. after you release yourself from all the hurt and all the pain, you are growing into who you truly are. Because I just believe you can't become something that you are not on the inside. It's already in you, and it's going to manifest and become obvious to the world who you are. So get out your own way. I'm sorry, I had to take your term, Chris, but get out your own way and let the process work for you.
I'm gonna keep it real general with this. When it comes to unraveling key challenges men face in today's society, I think it's important for men to know that there are always going to be challenges. Some challenges are going to be easier than others. Some are going to take multiple steps to get through. Some may take months, weeks, or years. At the end of the day, we have to embrace some of these challenges and understand that they are going to come and try to develop a plan to deal with these things. As I mentioned, there are going to be different types of challenges that come up, and there is no way of avoiding them. But if you have a plan, have a good mindset, and a good foundation to deal with them, you'll be a lot better off. So I say embrace the challenges as they come, figure out a plan to get through them, develop a plan, understand your plan, commit to your plan, be consistent with your plan, and eventually your plan will come to fruition, and you will be able to look back at the process and be glad that you actually went through it. So stick with the process as you're going through it as well.
Okay. My final thought would be this: being a man is a key challenge for a man in today's society. So understand that being a man comes with a lot of weight that you are going to have to shoulder, directly or indirectly. Becoming a man is a grueling process. It is very simple to do, but it is not easy. So understand that before you even think, understand that before you take this journey on. It's just not easy. It is very simple though. So yeah, the fantasy that you have that you can do this and just snap your fingers and be something else, kill that, because that's what's going to disappoint you the most. That's my final thought.
I think we should come to the realization that those individuals who formed us and raised us, they weren't necessarily prepared. They weren't there making sure that we would grow into any positive manner. But at the same time, I think we can't hold them now after knowing and after learning. We can't hold them for our healing. We have to be responsible for our healing so that we can't continue to look at them as damaged beings, but we got to look at them and say, man, they damaged me. It hurt. I have to be prepared to get beyond this. Now, how do I do that? I got to learn ways. I got to grow. Because I know what I don't want to be. So now what do I become? How do I become the man that I want to become? How do I be upstanding in my community? And when you focus on the positive instead of the negatives, because I can say, well, he wasn't there, she taught me this, but then all I'm doing is add more fuel to that fire that's burning in me and continuing to consume me. And if that's what's consuming me, I will never live out love. I will never live out any type of behavior patterns that is positive, because I'm living in that damaged space and not healing. And I'm expecting somebody else to be the responsible party for it, instead of looking in the mirror and say, man, I have to do this first. I got to forgive myself for allowing it. I have to forgive them. And then I have to move forward. And it's a painful stages in there. It's some hurtful stages in there. But I know at the end of the day, if I want to be healed, I have to do the work. I have to put the work in. I have to trust the process.
All great conversations, and I greatly appreciate those brothers for the value that they added. This particular conversation, just keep in mind, we're just starting with one. We haven't even made it to the other points yet. You know, this is all about the key challenges men face in today's society. And in this particular conversation, we're talking about the results of experiences from negative relationships. And as you can see, as we started unpacking certain things and started sharing our stories, we all have them. No one is exempt. I know a lot of times we like to talk about our story because we think our story is unique. And then sometimes we try to be glorified because we want to share our story, because we want people to look at our story and say, oh my God, I can't see you've been through so much. Listen, stop. Everybody has a story. Your story is unique to you. Here's the beautiful part about your story. Your story is for someone else to realize that we have similarities in our stories. But if I made it through from the story that sounds like that, then so can you. That's what our story is for. And so when we look at it from that perspective, we'll stop living our life looking for people to glorify us through the lens of our story. Why is that important? Because the longer you hold on to that story and make that your primary story, you will never be able to write the pages of the book that's supposed to come to rewrite the new story that sits before you. You're going to keep recycling the same story. And that's the life that a lot of people live. They never learn from the past. They just keep talking about the past. So they talk about the past today, tomorrow the past shows up again. So you constantly keep recreating the same thing. That's what happened when you start looking at these negative relationships. Negative relationships instills in people negativity. Therefore, they go into the next relationship looking at things from the past. They look at, well, this person did this, so now I am looking at you through the lens of their transgressions. No, you shouldn't be in a relationship. We have to get to the point where we recognize that this is all math. I keep saying that. Math. Positive and a negative will equal a negative. And I'm only talking multiplication. I will only talk multiplication. I want to talk addition and subtraction because you guys are better than that, right? I think within the fiber of every person that's hearing this, like, you have greatness in you. You have greatness in you that you don't even realize exists yet, but you won't realize it until you pull yourself out of those negative those negative thought patterns, and then recognize that, you know what? I can do this. I am more than a conqueror. Right? I can, get this thing. I can create this thing. I can start this business. I can, buy this house that I've been dreaming about for so many years. I can do all these things, but it's only going to happen when you get to the point of you overcoming your past and realizing that you survived. That's the most important thing. Stop focusing on it like here and now for a reason. And what is that reason? What is that purpose? So greatly appreciate you guys for joining us and staying with us a little long tonight. And again, always appreciate the fellas. With that being said, also, we're in the process of rebuilding my website. So go to www.totalmindsetshift.com. And that is the updated website. So again, we're still tweaking some things, but we're extremely proud of what we're creating collectively as a community. It's not just my website; it's a community website. Right. And I am always looking for a way to uplift and empower somebody else. So listen, that being said, man, I want to again give these guys their flowers. I appreciate these guys. I love these guys. They're always value added. And as you guys can see, man, they make the show. I just appreciate them being a part of the show. So on their behalf, as we get ready to exit for this evening, we also want to make sure that we talk about you guys in the chat and you guys who are actually just listening. Like, we appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. So we appreciate you, Rain. We appreciate you, Edgar Fuentes. Good to see you, brother. We appreciate you, O'Shea. I think I seen you earlier. We appreciate all you guys. Miss Austin, we appreciate you. We appreciate all you guys. Again, next week, same time, same channel. We're going to have the same conversation, but next week we're talking about disenfranchised father. And this guy here is going to be the star of the show. So that being said, you guys have a great rest of your evening and have a even better weekend. And we'll see you guys next week.